All right, that's done. Welcome everybody to You're Gonna Love This. I am your host, Adam Moshcatel. This is the podcast where every week I attempt to write the perfect song for my guest. I believe I accidentally didn't tell him that before we started recording. So that's news to him. News to you is who the guest is. My guest this week is the first, I'm going to say, with some confidence, he is the first non-comedian friend on the podcast. He is a work friend, and just a friend in general, like all of the people on the podcast, or at least I hope they eventually become a friend. His name is Jim Cupples.
Greetings, people.
Oh, Jim, would you actually mind moving the microphone over so you can be, or not move the button over so that you can be heard a little better?
Absolutely.
There you go. Hey.
This is my first experience on a podcast, so thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. I wanted to give you the opportunity and the listeners to find out about your main project, which is really starting to come into some really exciting existence in the last couple weeks, and is getting more and more stuff going every day. And so you're the creator of runforoffice.org. I would say I think that's a pretty good title. Is that how you would put it, or?
Yeah, I am. Well, I would consider it a co-creator of runforoffice.org.
Yeah.
I had worked on a prototype before runforoffice.org called Ballot Path, and it did the same job as far as allowing people to enter their address, see what they can run for, and how to get on the ballot. But when I came aboard Nation Builder, we just made it a lot more robust, and we tied in lessons for people to learn how to run for office. We obviously scaled up our data collection in a real big way. So, yeah, it's flattering, thank you, to offer me the title of creator, but I would say co-creator with a whole lot of people that we work with at Nation Builder.
That's true. Visionary, maybe. How do you like that? Visionary.
I love that. Yeah, I certainly had the vision and the no chops to pull it off. So it made a lot of partnerships and friends and worked on it together.
Totally. So to back up a little bit for our listeners, Run for Office is a project. It's a website, runforoffice.org. Anybody, you can go to it right now. And if you're a U.S. resident and you put your address in, it will tell you what offices you can run for. And it's one of those really simple ideas that I think are so effective. You know, it's just something that it feels like whoever thought, it's one of those things you think about and you go, oh, somebody else must have thought of this and started doing this. And then you go and look and you're like, oh, nobody actually has bothered to put the work in.
I felt that way a million times.
Yeah.
I always thought that I was going to uncover someone doing the exact same thing, and then I would have wasted 3 months, 6 months, a year and a half. And now, I guess I've been working on this for almost 4 years.
Wow. Yeah.
And
you're now the guy. Now other people are getting the idea and they're looking up and going, oh, actually runforoffice.org exists, so I don't need to do it.
Yeah.
Or I'll help work on it is more likely what they do.
Hopefully they want to help work on it. But I what you just mentioned, I think is so interesting. And that's like, sometimes we think of these things that are kind of simple concepts. And it's, like I said, I totally felt that way, that I was going to find a whole lot of people doing what I was doing, creating a database with all these elected offices from top to bottom and how you could run for them.
Yeah.
But just as you were saying, it hadn't been done before, but I'm sure it had been thought of by like a million people, or maybe started and stopped. So I guess the only thing different about me was just really sticking to it for a long time and working with people, because I am not a technical person. Yet I work for a tech company,
right?
And everything that I learned in tech, I kind of learned on the job. So I was fortunate to have some people at Nation Builder that thought, let's invest training this guy and working with them on the project.
And also to back the listeners up, because I don't think I've ever really talked about my job on the podcast so far. Nation Builder is the company that Jim and I work for. It describes itself as leadership software. It is a tool through which you can do a whole lot of things, but it's mostly it's a tool you can use to really connect with people. It does a lot of things. You can use it to make a website. You can use it as a database of people. I don't need to pitch Nation Builder. You can go and look it up. It's a nice little product. It's a great company, and it really fits well with Run for Office, and that's why I think you got brought on, and why it seems so. It's a simple fit. It's an easy fit.
Yeah, it was. It was a very easy fit, and it's been that way. And ever since I came aboard, there's a unique culture there at Nation Builder. But you and I have a bunch of other interesting stuff to talk about.
That's true.
I am excited to be the first non-comedian
Yes.
on this show, so I will dazzle people with bits of historical fiction.
Oh, please. Yeah, no, yeah, you're part-time historical fiction writer.
That's it.
So, if all of my guests must display some sort of creative talent while they're on. Most people choose to use comedy. But yeah, if at any point you feel the flash of passion and creativity strike you, and a bit of historical fiction comes to mind, just go ahead and jump into it.
I certainly will. I have been kind of, I guess, bogged down in real history.
Sure.
And been focusing a lot on George Washington, Pomeranian breeder, that we all know of.
Sure.
As well as astronaut. But I'm going to try to break away from that and let my mind wander.
Okay,
and
yeah.
think of some fiction.
Think of some really outlandish stuff.
Yeah, just something crazy.
Okay, great. Well, before we get to any of that, let's. I have a couple segments. First off, this is episode. I'm going to, while I'm in the middle of the sentence and not till the sentence is done, be checking to see what episode number this is. And just keep giving me a second, everybody at home. It'll be just a little bit longer. I'm playing my own podcast on my podcast. This is episode 27. Really well done by me there. Hope you all enjoyed that little sneak peek into the process here. I just went to my SoundCloud page, the same place you may be, in fact, listening to my podcast right now. It's exciting to think of the synchronicities in life. This is episode 27. Are you curious to know, like I said before, this is the only overall criticism you are allowed to give at the end is whether this was a perfect song for you or not. Are you curious as to how many songs have been perfect so far on the podcast?
I am very curious to that.
Yeah. So far I have written an astounding, for me, I say it every episode and it's getting a little boring for me, but it astounds me every time. So far 7 of the 26 have been perfect. Seems insane to me. It seems like something that is impossible to do once, let alone 7 times. Even with that many people having said that I've done it for them in the past.
What do you attribute that to?
Oh, my crippling anxiety and fear of failure, I think, is probably mostly where it comes from. There's I just, and also I think I'm a bit of a word snob, and when I think of what perfection is, I almost don't think it's achievable with art. I think, like we were saying a little bit before the podcast, that writing is kind of this process of taking the perfect that's in your head and making something, how the translation process makes errors, and you're never going to be able to get that perfect image in your head out. So in my mind, I'm like, perfection isn't going to happen. But 7 guests have decided otherwise. And, if I made them songs that they like, I'm happy with that. And if they say that they're perfect, even though I think that that's not possible, I'll accept it most of the time. Sometimes I have yelled at people and told them that the perfect they gave me was unwarranted and made them take it back. But most of the time I don't.
Well, I will be an honest judge, and I have a very clear idea of perfection, so we'll see how it measures up.
Perfect. The other segment that I need to get to is called You're Gonna Love This, which is also the name of the podcast, if you remember. In this segment, I tell my guest and the people at home about a song or music that I've been listening to that I think they would enjoy. I've had a real hard time for the last couple weeks not saying Run the Jewels 3, and that's not sometimes on purpose, sometimes not. One time I thought I hadn't said it yet, and was like, "Oh, this is all I've been listening to. Let me talk about that." And then my guest informed me that I had said that on the previous episode. So I've got some new stuff. Exciting. What I have for you this week is an album that popped up in my YouTube recommended, may have also in yours. A number of times I never clicked on it because it looked like whatever. It's Scenery by Ryo Fukui. He is a Japanese pianist, and gosh, it was just a real fun album. Apparently it was a guy that he started learning how to play the piano at 22, made this insane album at like 28 that was just this great jazz piano album. Yeah, check it out. I think you're going to enjoy it. It's probably already on youtube.com if you just pull it up, so you can just you don't even have to search it. Yeah.
What's that name again?
It's Ryo, Ryo Fukui, Fukui. And the album is Scenery. And yeah, it's just a real good listen. Japanese people, there's a lot of really good Japanese jazz. And I don't know, I'm not exactly sure why, but it's really good. There's a helicopter in the background that may have gotten picked up on the microphone. That's exciting.
We're in Los Angeles.
Yeah, and specifically Koreatown, where I was greeted the first night that I got here with the loudest helicopter I've ever heard. Because, I don't know if South Seattle is not a big helicopter destination. Neither is University area Seattle. The only two places I'd lived before Los Angeles. Helicopters are loud, and they come at night, and that'll scare you.
I don't know if anyone from Oregon has ever seen a helicopter. They would be baffled by this flying windmill. But yeah, you guys have them pretty often down here.
Yes. Jim is actually living up in Oregon. He's also my first out-of-state guest. Everybody has been from California. Two firsts this week.
Maybe more.
Maybe.
There might be some more in store.
Maybe you'll be the first person to try to give me a grade other than perfect or not perfect, which I will just translate into a perfect or not perfect. But almost definitely, unless you say the word perfect, that means it's not perfect. So it doesn't really matter what you say. You can try that if you want.
It's on the table.
It's still there. It'll be there for the whole episode. That's you're gonna love this. We were in the middle of the segment the whole time. Let's transition into talking about music. So I'm gonna put down my guitar because I'm done making music, although I haven't been for a while. Jim, actually the first question is not music related at all, but I like to ask all my guests, what is your current mood? What's your, maybe say the last week or so, what's the prevailing mood, what kind of energy you've been carrying around with you?
I've been tired, but also a sense of exhilaration.
Yeah.
And that's just been, for professional reasons. And as well, I guess my personal life is going fairly well.
Great.
Just been having a lot of fun, but also feeling a little bit like I'm burning the candle at both ends. So a good type of tired.
Yeah.
And then I also wonder how long it can hold up.
Sure.
Right?
Eventually you burn the candle at both ends. You're not going to have too much candle left.
Correct.
Okay. I like that. Tired and exhilarated. So you're kind of, it's like you're maybe not at the top of the mountain, but you've crested to some sort of plateau that you can feel like you've made it into a new place, new outlook.
Yeah, I'm kind of on like mile 21 of the marathon, where it's like I'm reaching my clip, I'm cruising. I know that the finish line isn't that far away, but I'm pretty tired, right?
Yeah.
And like I'm still enjoying it and everything else, but man, am I looking forward to the break when I cross that line. So that's probably a fair way of describing how it feels.
Okay. I can work with that. Would you say you tend to want similar emotional tone music with your emotions? Do you tend to match, or do you try to do any sort of emotional matching with the music that you listen to, or is it kind of just whatever plays?
I do try to do some emotional matching to the music that I'm listening to. I certainly do. So the times when I probably listen to music the most are in the mornings. I walk my dog, and I plan on often listening to a podcast when I'm doing that, but I usually don't.
Sure.
I'll usually just like start the walk and maybe even listen to a podcast for a minute or two. It's usually the news.
Listening to a podcast is just so much work, like I get it. Like, what even compels somebody to listen to any podcasts?
Oh, I am a huge podcast fan.
Yes.
But
I am too. I'm also a comedian. I don't know if you knew that.
Very aware. So I often do a lot of matching to my emotions, and that's often in the morning when I'm walking my dog, when I'm listening to music, and I'll reach back, and a lot of the times, I don't know, I've been listening to a lot of Wilco lately, which is a band that I listened to I remember hearing Wilco for the first time ever. I think that was in like 1998, and I heard the Wilco album Mermaid Avenue, which is where they redo a whole bunch of Woody Guthrie songs.
Ooh.
Yeah, it was, and I remember I was driving actually from Los Angeles to Las Vegas with a friend of mine, and that's a long, desolate drive. Sure. And I remember clear as day hearing the song California Stars and just thinking like, wow, that's a wonderful, beautiful song. And I didn't catch who the artist was, that it was Wilco. And maybe 3 or 4 years later, I was describing that song to a good friend of mine, and he goes, "That's Mermaid Avenue by Wilco." And I was like, holy smokes. And since then, I was a big Wilco fan. But I hadn't listened to them in probably about a year or so. And lately, I've just been on kind of like a big Wilco kick. So I've been listening a lot to the album Kicking Television.
What's going on in Kicking Television? What's got you? What do you like in there?
It's a really good live album of one of their shows. And
I'll tell you some good news. I'm going to be playing you a live cut of the song. This will not be a studio rendition that you're going to hear today. It's going to be one take, and it's going to be very live.
Well, that's matching my emotional matching of music. So perfect. Yeah,
perfect.
It's spot on.
We're going towards perfect. We're cruising there. What is it about other than the live album aspect? What is it that you like about that album?
Wilco gets pretty experimental in that album. So there's just some really great solos as far as guitar solos, and when it's not a studio album, the guitarists just don't care how long they're ripping it up for.
Right.
So some wonderful solos, and then the other thing that I really admire about that live album is it's a live concert, and yet they still do a lot of experimental stuff that you hear in their albums. The song will just kind of like break down at the end with a lot of feedback and things like that. And I think some bands would be, I don't know, not want to kind of try that on stage,
right.
But they pull it off wonderfully. And although they're known as making some pretty far out and experimental albums, this live show absolutely matches it. So, I'm a big fan of Kicking Television, and that's something that I guess fell in love with again maybe 3 weeks ago or so.
Wow. I got to tell you, I think the only thing that I'm going to be able to match Wilco on today is how live I am. I don't think it's very difficult to... Maybe it's not difficult. Maybe I'm just anxious about it. I don't want to play a guitar solo with no backing track. That's a level of self-involvement in music that I don't think I can go to. I'm not going to be experimental. I don't think it's very difficult to call. I mean, it's an experiment the whole way through the songwriting process, because I haven't said it yet. I only give myself about 11 minutes to write the song all the way through. So it's all experiment, but it's also none of it experiment, because I don't have time to experiment. I guess what I'm saying is I want to talk about the Smiths, because we've talked about the Smiths before. I know that's a band that you are very into, and it's also a band that I've recently fallen in love with, and I think is more replicable, more possible for me. Even though that band is amazingly is just amazing with all of the instruments and all of the vocals and everything, but it's at least imitatable.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, we could probably do a bunch of Smith songs and trick people into thinking they were original Smith songs, right? Like the Smiths, and I'm a huge fan, so we're not bashing at all.
No.
But sometimes the typecasting, I mean, I don't know. The Smiths had a sound, and
They did. I mean, it was a sound that I haven't heard since or before. It's a unique combination. All the four guys, like a lot of 4-person bands. I think it's one of those things that you could only get with those four people kind of coming together with their kind of unique musical backgrounds and techniques. The Johnny Marr and Morrissey together is just just the two of them alone is just an insane music explosion of ideas and things. But
yeah, well, what's interesting is I hadn't really thought about them being a quartet. I don't know why. I just hadn't thought about the semblance of four people in the band. For some reason, I never thought of them like that. So it's interesting that you bring up that you think the 4-person band is a pretty good, well, I guess, combination for artistry. Or
yeah, I mean, I guess with this, well, I don't know. I mean, 4 and 3. I like groups. I think in general, especially. I mean, when you have the solo stuff, like even Jimi Hendrix, when he went into his second group, when he was out of the Jimi Hendrix experience and had, he brought in a new drummer and I don't know, just new sounds, more people, more. I think there can be too many cooks in the kitchen, but there can also be too few, and then you just get samey kind of bullshit music, like mine. I'm sure. So I probably wouldn't choose me as the only thing I listen to. For pimping myself up here for all my listeners. So Smiths.
What's your favorite album by him?
Oh man, I honestly haven't gotten into the albums yet. I've only been hitting just songs. I am obsessed with Heaven Knows I'm Miserable now, and I think I could only be obsessed with it at this age in my life. I could not have been any earlier. I wouldn't have understood half of the lyrics, and now I understand maybe 60-70% of the lyrics, and I love it.
I'm probably at less than 50% as far as my comprehension of them.
Yeah.
But there's one album, and I was curious about that because there's one of them that I think really stands out for the Smiths, and all of them are like buy-worthy and everything else. But the album "Strange Ways, Here We Come" is really unique, and you can just jam on through it. And that album has the song "Death of a Disco Dancer," which is super experimental, really drawn out. It's probably around somewhere between 5 and 7 minutes.
Okay.
And without a lot of singing. So it's a lot of jamming by the band.
Sure.
And it's certainly unique. So yeah, if I'm just going to plug "Strangers Here We Come" as far as Smith's albums.
Totally.
That's really great. And then, I also am a big Morrissey as an individual artist and have liked his stuff. And the funny thing about Morrissey is I'll sometimes get away from Morrissey for a couple of years, and here he's got a couple albums, and I won't listen to him, and I'll just be like, I'm over my Morrissey phase. And then when I put on the album, I go, oh, this is awesome. What was I thinking?
Right.
This is this is so good.
Yeah, I mean, I think like a lot of good art out there, it hits you at different ages in different ways. So if you come back to it changed and you see it in a different way, I think the Smiths can do that for you over and over again.
Yeah, I didn't like the Beatles for a while.
Really?
Yeah, and it wasn't until later that I don't know, I turned the corner on them or whatever. But really was able to appreciate them. Same thing with the Beach Boys. I was kind of anti-Beach Boys, and now I love them.
You're kind of the generation where that was a little bit your parents' music, right? I mean, yeah.
Much.
So exactly, that's why. I mean, that's got to be a big part of it, right? Is it's just a rebellious thing? Like I'm trying to think of. My mom likes disco. I don't like disco very much.
Yeah.
My dad likes 60s soul music, which is good stuff, but I haven't gotten into a huge amount. Tower Power, he's a big fan of. And yeah, probably, it's hard to get into things that your parents are really into sometimes, but I don't know.
So those two bands, the Bees, the Beatles and the Beach Boys, those are two that, what you're speaking to, where, I don't know, sometimes of your life, I don't want to say not ready for them, but they just don't resonate with you.
Yeah.
And I certainly felt that way about both of them. And now Not as much the Beatles because I feel they're available so often from a lot of places, but
Sure.
I certainly can appreciate the Beach Boys, and I don't know, the song "Good Vibrations" is one of my favorite of all the time.
Oh, it's amazing.
Just far out.
Yeah, that song's amazing. Brian Wilson was an amazing songwriter. Pretty not the only Beach Boy that matters, but up he's number one and everybody else is a long ways away. Let's say that. Kokomo was not as good as Good Vibrations is a very easy statement for me to make. I could go into a lot more detail about how much worse. I could use the word shittier. I could use a lot of, I could say a lot of things. Brian Wilson was the important person in the Beach Boys.
Yeah, no doubt. I don't know. Did you see the movie over the summer or 2 summers ago? It was Love and Mercy.
I don't think so. Is this the Brian Wilson movie?
That's the Brian Wilson movie, and that was John Cusack plays Brian Wilson.
Yeah,
and does a bang up job. And Paul Dano plays him. I don't know if I pronounced his last name right, but he might have been, if the Jim Cupples Oscars were to be issued in 2015.
Yeah.
Paul Dano would probably have gotten it. I was just blown away by his performance as the young Brian Wilson in Love and Mercy. And Love and Mercy is a darn good movie. That might have been the thing that really brought the Beach Boys back into my radar.
Really?
Like you, I'm a big movie fan.
Yes.
So I guess in this case, and I'm thinking while I'm talking, I saw the movie first, and that kind of really got me back into gear on the Beach Boys and started listening to them a lot.
Yeah, they're a treasure. They're something that we should all be listening to it. We talked about we got to a lot of really good specifics, a lot of specific albums for people to listen to in this episode. This will be a good library episode for you. I hope everybody at home, as they listen to the podcast, they've got a pen and a pad out. Whenever they hear something interesting, they've been scribbling it down. I assume that you've been doing it. You've got a long list of all of the things that I or my guest have talked about, because I don't want to write that list. As I'm saying this, I'm making the point in my head that I should have that list, because I do talk about it seems like something that I should have or be putting out or something like that, and I don't. So I guess what I'm asking is, please, listeners, write that list for me. Yeah.
Well, what I'm kind of interested in, Adam, is I wonder if we were to look at everyone's musical preferences.
Uh-huh.
It would be interesting to see what bands are mentioned the most, or
sure,
on podcast 22,642, maybe there are some patterns we can draw.
Well, let me do some quick math on that. So 22,642. There's about
years?
Yeah, because there's about 3 years, 3 years in every 1,000, and so that's like 67, 68 years from now. So if I'm turning 90, what would that be? 92.
I'm so the music is going to be so interesting then that we're going to have these wonderful patterns to draw from.
That's true. Okay, well, I mean, there's so many questions to ask about my when I'm 92 still doing this podcast. Oh man, I didn't think just a number could depress me. But the idea, no offense, listeners, I hope you like the podcast. But gosh, if I'm doing this fucking thing when I'm 92, I can't believe that. I mean, I love doing this, but I can't. Nobody loves doing anything that much, right? I mean,
I would dispute that.
Okay.
I mean, what are we doing right now but just two friends talking, trying to make it a bit entertaining, but having also at the same time a very genuine conversation about things we like, movies, music. I don't know. I'm not so upset if you tell me. I would be then about 15 years older, so I'd be like 107. And if you're like Jim at 107, you'll be recording a podcast with me. We'll be talking about music. Oh, damn! Well,
that's true.
Let's hop in the time machine and do this.
Okay, you're a positive man, and I appreciate that. I hope I'll have moved on to my second podcast by the time I'm 91. That maybe more than 30 people will listen to. Again, no offense, listeners. I'm not bitter. I'm just projecting out 60 plus years, so it's not about the current state. Love the current state. Jim, like always, I wrote 2 words down. I've not a whole lot of stuff to go with, but I think I'm gonna send you off because I'm hitting right about my time limit for how long I like these conversations to go. Had a good time though. I think the first non-comedian went well. How do you feel? If you had to give this a perfect or a not perfect for the first half?
I'd give it a perfect.
Wow.
I'd give it a perfect because I stretched my field so much from a historical fiction writer to a burgeoning comedian.
Yeah.
An amateur one at that.
Hey.
But, I'm working on it.
Nobody's paying me. It's we're all amateurs until somebody hands you a check. So you're on the same level that I'm at. Jim, I just have one more question for you. Mm-hmm. That question is: have you ever heard the song "Cars" by Gary Newman?
Yes.
Okay. What do you think about it?
I like it a lot. And that's a funny thing because to me that song is like at one level very shallow.
Yeah.
Because it's just very repetitive.
Mm-hmm.
But there's something also like it's a time capsule.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. I feel like we're in 1982 or whatever year. Like, it's got to be something around there.
Yeah. It really puts you back.
It puts me back, and I don't know. I kind of like, see the styles, or there's something about that song that will bring you right back to that thing. Because you know why? It's so poppy, right? Mm-hmm. It's like just pure pop, and it's like repetitive. I guess there's a little bit of like new wave in there,
yeah.
But it's pop new wave, right? Like you're gonna hear it on the radio, and people probably heard it a zillion times.
Yeah, it's definitely like the anomalous Gary Newman song because he very much did not. The rest of his oeuvre is not super poppy, super yeah. Well, anyway, the reason I asked is because as both your earplugs and as my musical timer. I'm going to send you into the bathroom, and you're going to listen to Cars by Gary Newman 3 times in a row. How does that sound?
Delightful.
Great. I've had a wide range of emotion off of that. I'm happy to hear you're happy to hear it. So we'll be right back on You're Going to Love This. Bye.
Algorithm.
That was a nice harmony.
Thank you, Todd.
Oh yeah, your voice is lovely.
I'm so happy to get another compliment from you. It makes me feel really good. Do you want to start the meeting, Shane?
You seem a little upset.
Well, I can see you guys are all wearing the same clothes you were in last meeting. You clearly went out again, and nobody again invited me, and it's just really starting to grate on my nerves, and I'm sorry.
Well, I wasn't really planning on going out.
Yeah, it was kind of like a spur in the moment.
Yeah. Okay, but let me ask you something. At the spur of the moment, could you not have invited me?
I mean,
I looked in my phone. I don't have your phone.
Well, I've given it to you, so that's not my fault. You've deleted it from your phone.
I mean,
you just deleted a number that I gave you for no reason. That's not my fault.
I just every time you give it to me, I forget to save it.
I mean, I have your phone number because you're my manager.
Yeah, and I grabbed your phone out of your hands on the first day and put my number in, and then gave it back to you.
Well, yeah, because I need to know where you are, just in case I get sick or anything like that.
And I did write my name as A John, so I would be the first one in your contacts list.
Yes, here's the thing. When we were going out, we were already in the same car, and we were passing by,
Wait, you guys were... Wait, hold up. When you were going out, you were already in the same car? What does that mean?
I'm saying, when we decided to go out, we were already in the same car, so we were all, talking to each other, and then we passed a bar, and we were like, hey, why don't we just go, get drinks?
That doesn't...
It just sort of, didn't cross my mind.
Todd?
What?
Todd?
What?
You've skipped a major step.
What?
How is it that when you were going out, you were all already in the same car? That doesn't make any sense.
I call to order the 115th meeting of the Council of Watchers, Keepers of the Great One, Servants of the Almighty Algorithm.
Amen.
Amen. Oh, by the way, John, I just realized I do have you on my phone. I just have you as John.
Yeah.
I thought that was a different person.
Okay, that's my bad then. That's my fault. I'll take that blame.
Listen, I think that what's most important in these times, John, you don't feel included, and I understand that. But what you also must understand is that we have important work to do because Algorithm has set his sights on school buses. He plans to put together a series of catastrophic tire failures that will endanger tons of children, and what we must do is find the You're Gonna Love This Facebook page and like and participate on it, as well as subscribe to the podcast on iTunes and SoundCloud.
That's one of the most direct threats algorithms made recently.
Oh, he's making direct threats because he doesn't feel we're listening. He thinks we're too busy and too self-absorbed, John.
That felt directed at me.
It was.
Okay, I don't think it's being self-obsessed to notice that your friends keep going out without you. I think that's just being observant. I'm sorry.
Okay, John, like, here's why we were all in the car.
You're my best friend, Todd.
No, I know, but here's why they were like driving. They were driving me. It's because like I have to go home, and then they were like, "Oh, we're all friends, and we all live in kind of the same direction." And so it's like, why don't we just carpool together? And then they drive me home.
You do. It's kind of the same direction. John, you live like an hour away from Todd. You were gonna give him a ride home? I don't know, guys. I'm really getting broken up over here. I don't think it was a good idea to bring you in, Todd. I'm just gonna say that flat
No, I'm
out.
having fun. Like, this is great.
I'm having fun.
Having a blast.
Good.
Having a blast.
Glad to see the majority is having a good time.
Well, listen, if it makes you want to, we can vote on it.
Okay.
Yeah, okay, sure, let's vote on it.
Are we having fun? All in favor? Or all parties having fun?
Aye.
Hi.
All against? All
I'm
abstaining?
gonna abstain from the question. I don't want to answer that one.
All right.
Make a decision, jeez.
Well, here we are.
Yeah.
Having fun. As voted on
Yep.
by us.
Yes.
Cool.
Meeting adjourned. Algorithm. 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 Should we have 8th Street this time?
Guys, just wait till you leave.
Welcome back, everybody, to You're Gonna Love This. Jim, how did you enjoy your time in the bathroom with Cars?
I enjoyed it a lot, and what's funny is we were talking a little bit about the song prior, and some of that stuff that I was mentioning was true. It's a total time capsule song, but it's not as cheesy as I think I thought. There's probably some like deeper level on the lyrics, you know, it's
Maybe.
like locking his cars, and I don't know.
Yeah, I think, or you listen to it over and over again in a row, and you start deriving meaning. It could be one of those two. I've pondered that thought a lot. I've listened to Cars probably more than any human being in the last 5 years.
It's about the emptiness of the modern soul.
Yeah, because the car is the body. You know, here in my car, in my body, I feel safest of all. I can lock all my doors. The metaphor immediately broke down. There's no way that doesn't make any sense. Jim, would you like to hear the song I wrote for you?
I'm super stoked.
All right. I think you'll like it. I hope so. Would you mind switching the microphone settings over so that my mic can hear me better? Tell me now, tell me never, keep it to yourself in my ear. Tell me now, tell me never, keep it to yourself in my ear. I'll never say please, and I said it again. Strolling abroad on the promenade, drinking myself half to death. Tell me now, tell me never, keep it to yourself in my ear. Love is a drug. I've got some in my pocket. Who says no? Who said now? Tell me now and tell me never, and keep it to yourself in my ear. Yeah, there's the song.
That was awesome.
Oh.
That was...
Ooh, let's switch you back so you can be heard very well. Ooh, do it. You do it. I can't see the thing I'm trying to do.
Got it.
There you go.
That
your
was
song.
awesome.
Thank
that
you.
was we're gonna high five
Fives.
on the air of the podcast.
Yes.
So I thought that was really Smiths-ish.
Thank you. That was exactly what I tried to do.
Yeah.
So I'm glad that I nailed that. I definitely practiced the Morrissey voice for a little bit while I was out here.
Yeah. So the Morrissey voice, the word promenade as placed. Oh, you know why? Promenade is used in Morrissey song "Every Day Is Like Sunday,"
Okay.
and so that might have been another one that was like, all right, this is Moz.
Yeah, I think that I have not heard that song, but I think I was definitely channeling Moz when I used the word promenade. I went with a different songwriting style with this one, which was I wrote a 3-line chorus, and then I just wrote like 7 or 8 different one-liners. And then just kind of said them when I wanted to. I just picked them out and that worked pretty well. Feels like Morrissey kind of writes that way too, a little bit.
You know what I'm curious about? Had you ever used those expressions before? That sequence of words, "Tell me now, tell me never."
No,
That's good.
I don't think so. Yeah,
Right?
yeah. I think that was. I basically only went into each line with wordplay in mind. I had no other. Because I've said it before on my podcast. I use the L. Ron Hubbard school of writing. His motto is "First draft, last draft, get it out the door."
I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's what propelled him to being the Guinness World Record. You can check this. Most books and most words ever written. The dude just wrote like crazy. He never checked anything that he wrote. He just wrote it, and then it was done, and he was done with it, and it was out the door. And that's how I am with the podcast. Yeah, I only really had time to think about the wordplay. I did not have time to come up with any meaning. If you listen to it a couple times like he did Cars, maybe you'll find it, but it's not really there.
Well, what's funny is I was like totally searching for the meaning. And I'm thinking like, all right, Adam is thinking, well, I'm trying to think of what's inspiring you to put those lyrics and as well as on a trip of self-discovery as I try to see the insights to myself through it. But then you tell me it's like random wordplay and it's funny.
Well, but you know
it's
what?
like the words on the refrigerator. Right?
I think even as I say that, I can go back and look at some of these other songs where I'm like, oh, I didn't put anything of myself in there, and then I'm like, oh, this is just like expressing my mind state at the time. So maybe just the stream of consciousness lets out whatever's in your head, whether you want it to or not.
Art.
Yeah, I don't like to analyze myself too much. That's my guest's job, but I've been doing it a little bit today. So if you want to look at the lyrics, if you want to try to find some meaning in there, the thing that inspired me was I tried to write like Morrissey does. That is what you inspired in me was just, and you've just been doing that for a couple weeks now, thinking about Morrissey. Any lyrics popping out to you? You're over there looking at the sheet.
Oh, I'm not kidding you. We should connect with Morrissey. I never say please, and I'll say it again. Yeah, I hear Morrissey's very approachable.
Yes,
right? A very easy.
Yeah, if all of the Morrissey stories are like, so I went up to Morrissey, and before I could even say anything, it was like, give me whatever you have. I want to sign it. Morrissey is a notoriously difficult person to approach.
Yeah.
Even his fans, his Uber fans would like to get like scoffed at. That would be like that's a hug from Morrissey.
You know what's funny? That is the Morrissey. I just want to say, because I'm an old school fan, I remember watching concerts of Morrissey, specifically Morrissey. This is like post Smiths,
right.
Morrissey's first couple albums. he would do this thing where he would let people come on stage to hug him. It was crazy. And it's so counter to all the stories that we hear. It almost doesn't make sense. So I already know what I'm referring to.
Yeah.
It's a Morrissey like concert footage called Homerist. And I'm going to find that. We're going to YouTube that up. This will be offline stuff. But I want to show that to you because to me, it still makes no sense that Morrissey is this notoriously difficult person, yet he would let these people hug them. But I'm going to ramble for one other thing.
Yeah.
I never say please, and I'll say it again. I had this girl that I'm friends with in high school. We're still friends on Facebook, and she's a huge Morrissey fan. And I want to share with her these lyrics and be like, oh, my friend and I were doing this podcast, and these are the lyrics that he came up with. How much of Smith's song does it sound like? So
that's a high compliment.
So I get to maybe take a picture of this and send it to me, and then I will transcribe it into Facebook land.
That's lovely.
Yeah. And she's English, so
wow.
that's
that's top notch. That's top tier Morrissey fan right there, because you can relate on a level that I could never relate on.
Yes,
the gloom and doom of a English person is way up over anything in Seattle.
Yeah. You guys.
I mean, we're pretty good. We're we got it covered for as far as America's concerned. We're almost near top gloom and doom, but you can't touch anywhere. London, or I don't know where she lives.
It was London.
You can't touch London.
You can't touch London, and there's probably those one-offs in England who might be chipper, but she's part of the Morrissey contingent.
Yeah.
English on top of it. Good friend of mine. So I'm totally looking forward to Facebooking with her and being like, oh, you got to. I almost want to say tell me what song this is from, and she'll be like, oh, I don't know. And I'll be like, oh, that's the song we just developed, and you're going to love this.
Yeah, and I do want to encourage all of my guests in the future to assume co-creator status on the songs like Jim just did. It is a joint venture. Honestly, I will say, I come out of this process with a lot of songs that I'm like, there is no way in hell I would ever have written that song if I didn't have another person in the room. So I am saying this as a bit facetiously, but honestly, I wouldn't have written a Smith song if you weren't here, Jim, and I'm really happy I did.
Awesome.
Now comes the time in the podcast. I feel like I already know what you might say, but I'm going to require you to say it anyway. Was this the perfect song for you?
It was the perfect song, and I'm hesitant to say that because I know that you're very self-critical, and you like to have something, I guess, to improve upon, as we all do. But I'm telling you, that is a Smith song. That is I feel like we should perhaps do a more elaborate studio version and pass it off as one of the lost tracks from The Queen is Dead.
I've gotten that request from a lot of people. I think, mostly my guests. I haven't gotten a lot of clamor from the outside world to remake these songs, but I know I'll at least have one person who will really enjoy it. And that's why I do this podcast anyway, is to entertain the one person that I wrote the song for. So thank you for coming on. Thank you for giving me the perfect. I'll take it. I'm not gonna tell you not to give me a perfect. I think there's for me, I could probably point to. I mean, one thing that's helped me is I think I've simplified my process. I am not attempting to write verse chorus with lots of thought in them. It's easier to do a perfect song where you're just writing single lines, and they don't have to really connect to each other outside of all being Morrissey.
Yeah.
Which definitely they are, but there's no greater story to any of this. It's all, if there's a greater story, it's in your mind.
That's interesting.
Maybe there is because there's a greater story in your mind, but I didn't intend there to be one.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's a terrible transition. Let's do a couple plugs. So first, let's talk. Run for office. How can people find out about it? How can they get in touch with it? And again, if you've forgotten over the last couple minutes of me doing stupid Smith songs, runforoffice.org is a place where you can put in your address and look for and find all of the offices and information that goes with it that you can run for in your area. It's something that I think the country has always needed, and just greater democratization would never have hurt, but certainly will not hurt right now. It's more necessary than ever.
Yeah, it is. It's odd. We're having our little moment in the sun due to this crazy political dissatisfaction.
Yeah.
But even prior to this election and everything else, we weren't in a great state democracy wise, right? Like the people that represent us, we're upset at them very often. And one of the things I attribute that to is having such a narrow subset of people representing us. And this isn't just the Jim Cupples hunch. This is, borne out by statistics. The Pew Foundation did a really good one. So who runs for office? Oh, a bunch of like old white people like myself, white guys, men. So run for office, yeah, it's really in vogue right now because a lot of people want to run and they're upset at Donald Trump and everything else.
Yep.
But I would say that even predating that, we had a lot of work to do. As far as electing young people, I think they're underrepresented. Obviously, people of color, and that is the full spectrum between Asians, Latinos, Black people. So yeah, there's a lot of popularity with it right now, and that's nice. I'll take all of that and the momentum of that. But the problems were there beforehand. And the good thing about all this, I don't want to be, because the best part about democracy is like it's ours, right?
Yeah.
Like it's always been a collaboration of ours, which is sometimes embarrassing to think about the government, but that's what it is. And if we put in a stronger effort, not only as voters but as candidates, I feel there's a lot more potential. So thank you for letting me plug that. And I also want to tell your audience that, as you know, Adam, I can talk to a wall for probably like a good 2 hours. So if anyone ever wants to contact me, you can find me through the site, runforoffice.org, and just email anything there, and it'll end up in my lap.
Totally. You have a Twitter account too, right? Run for Office does? And
Yes.
you do as well.
Yeah. We've got the Twitter is at RFONB, and then my Twitter handle is just Jim Cupples, and it's craziness.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty spicy.
It's a fun one.
Yeah.
Well, Jim, I guess I should plug myself real quick. You can, if you want to see me perform, go to facebook.com/dadjokescomedy. That's my improv troupe. We post all our shows there. We also have an Instagram with the same name. You can follow, you're going to love this, at facebook.com/YGLT podcast. You can like it on SoundCloud and iTunes, and that stuff has already been mentioned to you in a portion of the podcast that Jim wasn't here for, and I don't want to get into. He'll have to listen to the podcast to find out what it was. I'm sure he's excited. Let's see what else. I think that's it. Oh, and if you at home want to get a song written for you, oh baby, I can't wait to write you a song. I really want you to help me out. What you need to do is a little complicated. Every time I explain it, I feel a little embarrassed, and every time I get a little closer to changing it and making the process a little easier on people, but not this time. First, you must comment on iTunes or SoundCloud for You're Gonna Love This. Whatever you say, I don't care. I just want proof that you did it. If you review us, that's great too. Then send proof of this to igltpodcast@gmail.com with the subject line. And I'm going to be very careful here so that everybody understands me. Goofed ya with my review. That's first word goofed. That's goof 'D with a capital G. Ya, Y-A, with my review. And if you spell any of that wrong, you will get an email asking you to resend with a proper subject line. And once you do that, and I've gotten proof, I will write a song for you. The first 50 people to do that, which at this point in time seems like an impossibly high number that's never going to happen, we'll get a free song written for them. That's pretty great, I think. And that's how you do it. So far, 2 people have done it. You know what? I should really get them to review those songs and then tell me what they thought of them, and then that would maybe prompt people to want their own songs. What do you think?
Well, I'm, already thinking, like, number one, I'm excited to promote my appearance on this.
Yeah.
So that'll be fun. And I don't know, I'm like hoping some of my friends in the Twitter sphere, in this Facebooker sphere, in all the spheres, contact you for some songs written as well, because it's a really fun experience to obviously be on the podcast. But I think it'd be interesting when you're doing it like remotely for someone.
Yeah, and free. And I can't stress enough how complicated but easy the process is. Man, I should probably. I love
Nothing's
the title.
complicated. or when someone says something that's complicated, you and I were just saying this, and we were like, when someone's saying something, this is off podcast,
Correct.
but don't believe them.
Yeah, the thesis I have is if you're saying something and somebody tells you that a situation is more complicated than you think it is, they're probably lying to you, or they don't understand the situation and they think it's more complicated than it is. Often things revolve around simple truths, and that is what will end the podcast. You will ponder that one at home as I sign off. Jim, it's been a lot of fun.
Thank you.
I will say one of my weaknesses is knowing how to end a podcast.